The following is a preventive treatment for those individuals who already have a problem, so this can be resolved. This treatment can be used for vaginal flow, for myomas, and for cysts in the uterus and the ovaries. Before going to sleep, we are going to cut a piece of the aloe vera in the shape of a 2-centimeter suppository. You use only the viscous part of the aloe vera by removing the skin. Then we place this part in the freezer because the aloe vera turns viscous. As a result, by putting it in the freezer, it will turn hard and then it can be handled. At night, before going to bed, we are going to insert this suppository in the vagina. The next day in the morning, we are going to perform a vaginal douche using 1 liter of horsetail tea. To do the tea, boil 1 liter of water and a tablespoon of horsetail tea. Allow it to boil for 5 minutes, let it settle for 10 minutes, then filter it, and then with a douche tubing, perform a vaginal wash. Through this process, you are going to release a large amount of filth from the inside. Sometimes the individual will release pieces of skin, sometimes hairs are released, or sometimes blood clots, and with the diet, the vaginal flows stop. Likewise, with this diet, when there is a vaginal obstruction and the woman is having a hard time getting pregnant, because with this, the sperm lives for a longer period of time, and therefore, the woman can easily get pregnant. I want to emphasize that for those women that do not want to get pregnant, to be careful with this treatment because it is very easy to get pregnant due to the fact that the sperm lives for a longer period of time. If a woman has cysts, myomas, or other tumors, she should wait until she eliminates these abnormal growths before getting pregnant. When we are doing this treatment, the next day when we are doing the vaginal douche, a great amount of toxins are released from the vagina. If any of you consume a great amount of donuts, pizza, chocolate, ice cream, or white bread, you will see that this type of foods create a large amount of mucus, which instead of coming out of the nose, is released through the vagina. When we decrease the consumption of all these foods, which create a large amount of mucus and which in naturism is known as vaginal flu, is going to be eliminated. This type of treatment, when it is done for 30 days, not including the days of menstruation, is a preventative treatment which is recommended to be done once a year in order to prevent all these kinds of diseases of the breast, to prevent diseases from the ovaries, and also for the correct functioning of the intestines and the colon. This is in a general way. The individual with the gangrene foot that I had presented to you at the beginning of the treatment, he would sleep at night with a cataplasm over his foot made out of grated carrots, which is prepared by placing it in the blender. And then you add yogurt, honey, and wheat bran. Using all of these ingredients, he would make a cataplasm that he would place over his foot every night. The next day, after removing the cataplasm, he would place his foot in a bucket with water and salt and leave there soaking for half an hour. Then he would remove his foot out of the water and then apply roasted aloe vera to his foot. In order to do this, a piece of aloe vera is cut sideways in half. Then it is roasted and he would place this roasted aloe vera over his foot. Through the process of urinating and eliminating 3 or 4 times a day with the enemas, the cold sheet wrappings, the aloe vera cataplasms, and drinking of 16 juices a day, the blood was suddenly cleansed and his foot was healed. It does not matter how swollen the tonsils are or whether there is streptococcus or a staphylococcus infection. A surgery can be avoided if we give an opportunity to the body to detoxify. This diet that I am recommending is a general way of detoxifying the body that cannot cause harm to anybody, and after 45 days, in addition to detoxifying the body, one of the effects is also to lose approximately between 5 and 7 kilograms, but also one decreases several dress sizes. This is a generalized diet that I had promised you. Now we're going to cover the topic of sexual magic and then talk about the last topic, which is meditation. For the bipolar individual, I recommend the same detoxifying diet without using any sweets. For the bipolar individual, mainly the sweet foods act like a poison, especially the white sugar. I recommend that lettuce extract is taken 3 times a day, and I also recommend that the individual drinks pomegranate juice, which helps the individual significantly, but at the beginning, the individual should not stop taking his medication, since the bipolar medications have to be decreased gradually. As the individual progresses with his treatment, the bipolar symptoms gradually begin to decrease. We are going to have to stop talking about this because we need to go into the next topic. The topic that we are going to be talking about is a vital point because we're going to be talking about sexual magic. I have mentioned to you that there are issues, but when we want to resolve them through reasoning or logic, we take too much time or we do not really resolve these issues. There is a state of a higher frequency that we can use to resolve these issues. The sexual energy within the yogic tradition is considered as something sacred, and it is something that a man or a woman should take care of. In order to discover the unity state, the individual has to reach the androgynous state. When I speak of it, it is easy to understand because we are operating in a duality plane. If I say that there is a below, you automatically think that there is an above. If I say that there is a within, you understand me because you have the awareness that there is a without. However, when dealing with unity consciousness, we encounter a problem because the language that we usually use is not sufficient to explain the unity state. It is here where symbols come into play. It is here where the mandalas and the diagrams are used because the language is insufficient to describe this unity state. When two navels come together, or in other words, when a man and a woman have sexual intimacy, not only through this act are you exchanging genitals, but there's also an interchange of everything else. There is an interchange of frequencies, vibrations, mentality, and emotions, and as a result, our partner becomes our mirror. It is here that all virtues and defects of a couple are going to be magnified. So then the individual is going to begin to see in his or her partner a large amount of issues, as if his or her partner was his or her mirror of everything that is within. The individual can be the best doctor, the best attorney, or the president of the country, but when the individual participates in sexual intimacy, he or she becomes aware of what are his or her sore spots. You might have the titles of a super doctor, a super president, but I know that if I touch a particular point, you're going to react to it. The reason why is because the points that we handle in our sexual intimacy are points extremely important that we should know how to work with them. In the sexual activity aspect, if we have been raised with a series of patterns in which we were told that sex was a sin or that sex is bad, then the individual has to work a great deal more in order to transcend these issues. If an individual has to pay for sexual intimacy outside his home because he cannot experience this in his own home, this means that the sexual intimacy is not functioning nor handled correctly. If I was told when I was being raised that my husband was not supposed to see me naked and needed to turn off the light while having intimacy, and if I had conceived 4 or 5 children under the previous circumstances, and I had to follow a series of behaviors because I carry with me a series of dysfunctional patterns and belief systems that were blocking me out, then my tasks in working with these issues needs to be more intense. During the sexual activity, the individual has to experience total surrenderness, and for this he or she should not feel like a sinner. It is required that the genitals are completely clean. There are some vaginal discharges which smell horrible, and in the males, when the prostate gland begins to fail, the erections are not correct, and when there is not a good penetration nor an orgasm through which a couple is not able to truly experience correct polarity, the sexual magic cannot take place. The individual eats to the maximum, drinks to the maximum, or uses drugs, and the woman, because she wants to feel liberated, begins to do the same thing. When the act of sexual intimacy is performed under these conditions, no sexual magic can occur, and instead it becomes an activity worse than an animal act, because the organism is completely unbalanced. It is important, therefore, that he and she are completely conscious, and it is also extremely important that in the couple both are completely rested. In addition, it is very important that the genitals are clean and we do not have any inhibitions. When we do not have a good communication to express what behaviors are not acceptable, the problems are going to worsen during intimacy. If we have initiated the relationship with a great attraction and a great love, and if we are not careful, the relationship is going to turn into a freezer. As a result, the love begins to turn into hate, in which we are going to see that everything that we have accumulated and all the work that we did, and if we are not able to use our sexual energy correctly, it is going to be lost during divorce with the attorneys, the judicial system, and both partners forming the couple are going to tear themselves to pieces because of the hate and the vindictive behaviors that are awakened. If we're going to wait until we are 60 or 65 years old in order for us to be relaxed and to experience tranquility, the physical state of the body at this age is in a very poor health. The statistics are showing us that the majority of the individuals who get divorced, when they again remarry, more than 70% go through the process of divorce again, because we again blame our partner for not fulfilling his or her commitment to the relationship. The handling of the sexuality, therefore, is vital, and for this, the couple needs to have all the necessary privacy, and issues that cannot be resolved through reasoning and through logic can be transcended through sexual magic. I remember that in one occasion, after finishing a workshop, I had to go to the airport in order to board my airplane on time. The couple who was taking me was expressing to me a series of problems that they were experiencing, so I decided to give them some homework. So I told them that before engaging in any altercation, they first needed to undress themselves and then they were to fight naked. Both of them looked at each other and stated that they did not understand what I was saying. It is true that we are rational animals, so there are ways of being together, some scratching each other, some yelling at each other, or others to the point of making each other bleed, and therefore we decide the way we are going to interact together. There are things that we have a hard time expressing with our common and ordinary language, and the individual needs to grasp what it is that is required for a good relationship. At the present time, when a man asks permission from a woman to give her a kiss, she responds by slapping him on the face twice, and then she goes behind the door crying and asking herself, "Why is he asking me for a kiss? Why did he not just give it to me?"